Hi, I'm Adam,
And I'm Andrew.
and welcome to the BoltSource Brief. So today we're going to talk about the benefits of cross-functional product development teams. So why don't you go ahead and kick us off now, Andrew?
Yeah, so one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is like the difference between like vertically integrated and horizontally integrated engineering teams. And by that I mean you have to silo somehow in your company. There's no way to
Right.
avoid it. You have to have groups of people. You can always encourage just like dissemination of like best practices and information and all that, but ultimately you're going to have groups, and it's the traditional approach of having like a front end team, a back end team, a mobile team, a product management team or design team, even versus kind of like the newer approach of aligning accountability around like particular sets of functionality in your product. So like having a authentication team that includes front end engineers, mobile engineers for the like how the authentication flows in your application, and then backend teams that are responsible, backend engineers on the same team that are responsible for how the actual backend mechanics work for authentication. So that kind of thing. And I'm wondering, Adam, what has been your experience with these two sort of different approaches?
Yeah, so I've actually had experience with both of them. Early on in my career, we had, back-end engineers, front-end engineers, mobile engineers, and what we saw was silos within those particular groups. So what would end up happening was engineers from the front end would get mad at the back end team because the back end team didn't have their stuff done on time. So
Right.
you run into a lot of that with segmenting your teams that way, by skill set. And more recently, I've had a lot of experience and a lot of success with this and siloing your teams based on a feature, because what it does is it holds that entire team accountable to deliver a quality, a delightful experience. And everybody from whether you're a front end, a back end, or a mobile, or even a designer or project manager, your whole goal is to deliver that particular feature. So authentication, or like a checkout flow, or a reservation flow, or whatever it may be. So that's where I've had a ton of success, and it really allows the teams to deep dive into those features and even learn more about the functional, like the back end. A front end engineer may not have any experience with the back end, but they can start to kind of learn how to treat back end and front end and how those two work together. And so, yeah, I've just had a lot more experience with the feature teams and a
Right.
lot more success with that end.
Yeah, I have too. A lot of the proponents for like the functional team versus cross-functional team approach, people who say, "Oh well, how do you make sure the app doesn't become disjointed?" Because if you have like a team responsible for login, register, forgot password flows, all of that, and then you have a team that's responsible for the app, how do you make sure there's consistency in the experience between those two sections? Um, and I like the matrix management model where you have, a technical lead on the team, you have a design lead, you have a product manager, and then you have like a team of engineers, cross-functional, right? Even sometimes like integrated QA. But then you have actual managers above that are responsible for the holistic performance of the application. So a design director who's responsible for ensuring that, or a VP of design or whatever, that's responsible for ensuring a consistent experience, and that all of those pieces are working well, versus optimizing for a specific area that like a design lead would do, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I also agree. I think there's better accountability in this model. You have when when everyone is aligned around what actually delivers business value instead of what makes my function feel better. like like
Yep.
front end developers who are advocating for a different back end technology, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like it
Right.
only makes sense to introduce new technology to your stack usually if it's going to have a positive business impact that actually justifies the cost of doing so. So
Right.
aligning things around like product level initiatives versus technical functional initiatives, right? It really creates that team alignment where the team comes together kind of like a scrum at the beginning of a rugby match, right?
Right.
Where everyone
Right.
locks shoulders and it doesn't matter what position you are, everyone's doing the same thing. And I think that's kind of what I've learned. It's more agile. Things get done more iteratively. There isn't like a contract handoff between two different teams. Now, sometimes there are dependencies between two teams, and I think that's where you need strong leadership at that directive VP level to make sure that those dependencies are handled and that teams aren't playing politics with each other, right? Because that's inevitable. That's going to happen, but it's either politics between your back end and front end, which degrades the entire application, or politics between authentication and the onboarding experience, right? Which the maximum blast radius for like toxicity there is like those two experiences feel a little disjointed versus the entire app, right?
Right.
So I'm a big believer in this. I think that it definitely encourages a healthier dynamic and a better product for organizations.
Yeah, and we actually did a few neat little things like with our teams in general. We actually had a Scrum Master. We dedicated somebody on that team to be the Scrum Master each sprint. And obviously this is if you're doing Scrum. And that really kind of helped them keep the team more organized. It gave them a little bit more leadership responsibilities. The other things that we did is we would actually rotate members from team to team to team. So if there was a good point where we could switch up maybe a back-end engineer, put them on another team, because we wanted everybody to have the chance to work with everyone else. So that was another thing that we did. And then the third thing that we did is when we had the leaders from each of those teams, we actually had them meet once a week to talk about the dependencies. To bring those things to light, to help kind of flush out those things before they happen in real time. So those were a couple of things that we did to make sure that there was ultimate success there.
Right. And I like I've seen the cross-pollination approach work well too. When the engineers, the technical lead should remain anchored, the design lead should remain anchored, the product manager should remain anchored. But when you have engineers that get in the trenches and they really care about the particular like product level portion that they're working on, and then they move to a different team, especially a team that may not cooperate as well with that original team, it kind of forces kind of a healthy, like they still have friends on that team, right? So they want to see their friends succeed. And I found that, that works really well for sure.
Yeah. So, I think this is kind of where a lot of teams are moving to. It is going to take time. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. There will be resistance, I'm sure, just like all change. But what I've seen in the past is it becomes a more healthier relationship amongst your team, and really helps bring out the best performance in everybody.
Yeah, I agree. And I like that a couple of our clients are moving in this direction too. It's been really rewarding to help them with that and just kind of help it, seeing companies transform in this regard from more of the functional approach to the cross-functional approach. It's super rewarding to watch.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. So, if you watch this video, we would love to hear your input on this, on, what has worked for your teams, or, have you tried doing this and you haven't had great success with it? So please comment below. Let us know your thoughts and feedback on it.
Thanks for tuning in for the BoltSource Brief.
Check us out at boltsource.io and learn how we can accelerate your product engineering organization today.